I've really been avoiding this next dreadful procedure, putting the oil pan back on. And mainly because my therapist, I can use my more mobile now with my left shoulder. So I think we're ready, much as I hate it. Phil, my transmission guy's doing great. He's on it. A couple more weeks, I'll have that back. So I'm going to point out here, I was able to jack the engine up in the back to get the oil pan out, but to ever get it back in and line up the gaskets is not going to be an easy task. I know in the past, these Studebakers, everybody says they're renowned for leaking oil, and it's no small undertaking to change the oil pan, but we got to do it. On these older vehicles with different makes and models, they do have a different kind of steering configuration. My finger's pointing to this steering arm. It pivots on this front type cross member. And I also noticed that was I have a 51, I showed it earlier, 51 Chrysler Hemi Doodlebug. And that has the same type of setup too on the Chrysler. So I think other manufacturers used that in the early 50s. And I might add also that I read that one of the engineers of the hemispheric engine originally worked for Studebaker. Another known fact. I haven't got his name right now. There's the phone ringing in the background. And okay, I did notice that I'm wondering a little bit about why they had those washers on top of the motor mount, even though it wasn't only about a quarter of an inch. There is a very close clearance from the bottom of the oil pan to that steering control arm. So once I ever get the pan back in, we'll have to check that out a little bit. Maybe that's why Goober and Gomer put those washers, but we'll check on that when we get ready to put her down. But okay, this is what it's looking like under here. These are all the oil pan bolts. Cleaned them all up, washed them up first in a glass jar, shook them up, cleaned them up good, wire brushed them all. I did notice that one of them was a little bit shorter than the others, meaning that when they took the engine out and rebuilt it, they lost a bolt probably. I'm going to try to find a little longer one. Maybe I can find one down on George's Avanti, so that upsets me. So I'm going to try to get a little longer bolt there. Cleaning up the surface on the bottom of the block. These are pretty Harbor Freight, $20. Much as I hate buying the China stuff. So yes, these are pretty good for $20. I bought one before and it did fall apart, but I got another one. And all these attachments, I cleaned up as much as I could what I can reach in there. This air works good. And then I'm real partial to the emery cloth. It's real nice, just the right kind of consistency for sanding and cleaning. A little gas on the rag, wiping the surface down off underneath. And I even use sometimes these little starting fluid spraying to clean in tough spots. And also, I might add that I use my air chuck here, and all those the holes with the threads in or the bolts go into, blow them out real good. And sometimes it's a good time to, like the toothbrush, maybe I hoe out I'm getting a lot of old Tupperware in the cupboards. So this one, the top is gone, but you know what? Yeah, working on these little projects comes in kind of hands. There you go, huh? We got to replace that one. I don't think I got in the mail here. Sometimes I get this guy's stuff in the mail. I think it worked kind of nice sometimes when you're spraying paint. These are kind of nice and stiff. If I'm doing a little painting, going along like when I was doing the upholstery. Just so stressful preparing to put this oil pan back in place with the new gaskets. Here's the old gaskets here. I wanted to show you when this engine was rebuilt. You can see it in the camera there. Even with the engine out of the car, and I'm assuming that it was upside down, the engine on a stand. And as you can see by the groove here, look, it goes right off the side here. So they never had it lined up properly for when that oil pan squeezes the gasket to the block. And I noticed after many years it had shrunk about a half an inch. I remember I literally had a radiator I actually could see in there. And of course they're real brittle. This one's about broke in half. As I say, this is one of my favorite gasket sealers. But when we're getting to this type of thing, this ultra black gasket maker, this is pretty good stuff. It's kind of sticky, so at least keep the gasket in place while you're trying to place it. But it will set up, so Even any kind of gasket material, I always try to let it set for a day or so, let you have it, everything tightened up. Very stressful. I'm going to show you over here the oil pan. I got it all set up. They give you the cork gasket is longer than the original, so I carefully trimmed it off here. Took duct tape to really hold it in there. So I got everything all sized up nice on the front and back. But yes, the big trick is getting under there and trying to get the gasket sealer on both sides of the surfaces and line it up. Oh boy. Jacob and I had to bring in the engine hoist from the barn. I want to call it a cherry picker. I don't know why. Is that some term that they use for these? These are pretty good. Actually, I bought this like 20 years ago for a couple $100. And tractor trailer of supplies from down south. They come into the area and set up on a street corner, and they start selling them to different garages. So it's been pretty good, very helpful. Anyhow, so here we go. I got to raise that engine up another 5-6 inches to really have room under there. I'm dreading this process. There again, I keep going on about it, but they throw out a lot of these belts that they use at the hospital for picking up patients. Quite colorful, but they're really pretty sturdy. We use them for wrapping up sleeping bags, and so I got them on those original valve covers. I think everything's okay, where I'm not going to create any damage to them. So there we go. That's the next process. I'm going to raise it up higher, and hopefully in the next video I'll have the oil pan all in and spare you any more of this misery. The 3 hospital belts came in real handy. I had to get one more. This one here was a collar or a leash. It says, "I love my collie." Though we had German Shepherds. Love to utilize. You should always utilize. Well, praise the Lord. I get real spiritual when things go right sometimes. The oil pan is reinstalled, and I'm happy with it. Any of you Studebaker guys that have 289s or 259s, probably the 6 cylinders too, the way the steering configuration is, the steering arm, or control, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, or to do an oil pan gasket, it's not an easy undertaking. I'm pretty sure you have to take your transmission out or unhook it from the engine, raise the engine up at least 4 to 6 inches off the motor mounts, and then it's doable. So nice and cozy down here. I did put Permatex, got my hands cleaned up, and I put the Permatex on my finger and did fill this in nicely on the back side and on the front as well. Not that made much difference. So there she is. Oh my God, what a big deal. Now I'm going to carefully let the engine back down, hopefully not mess up the threads on my motor mounts. And then, if you remember this, my jig, a wooden jig we call it. I'm going to put that back under the back side of the engine here. And we're just going to let her set and rest until I get my transmission. I think the transmission will fish up in here with the back of the engine jacked up. And as you can see, there's not a whole lot of room in there to get the oil pan in there. It takes a little bit of finesse. If you make a false move while you're installing it, you're going to get a gasket knocked out of position. And I will be leaving the cherry picker in place till we get the transmission in. I might have to do some maneuvering here in a future date. Columbo here. One more thing. Someone's going, "Well, Ira, what was the torque specs on those bolts for the oil pan?" Though a torque wrench is critical in some areas of assembly, like maybe torquing your heads down. But I just went around with my 3/8 ratchet, tighten up a little bit all the way around, keep going around, so I've got to the point where I think I got her pretty darn snug. So that's how I torque them. Got to show you this trick. These were like down by the kick panels on the Avanti. I got these in there so the fumes don't get out. I cut a little slit down the side here to get these to fit in there because they were really rusted and I didn't want to sandblast them. And so look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. They haven't been there an hour, so I was afraid maybe they eat the metal up. They've lost Kind of forgot about it. Come on out of there. Oh, man. Isn't that nice? I'm going to scrape off some of the glue. I wire brushed them and scraped off the paint. Then flipped them over. Sandblaster doesn't always get out the real deep pits sometimes. So I hear that compressor running and it does the dusty. I think she's cooked it long enough. Oh, careful, splashed around. Oh, make a little bit of a mess. Hey, the acid isn't really too bad on your skin. You gotta watch it because I noticed that. Can you see that? I think I spilled a lot of acid on my sock. The side kick plates are in pretty rough shape. As I recall, I bagged them up and put them in George's car. So I'm just going to clean up the area as nice as I can, try to get all the old glue off, paint those pieces and put them back on. And Studebaker's my other way in here where the vent is. They use like a black rubbery type of gasket. I think when it was in good condition, it kind of helped seal when the door opened and shut. Then it just deteriorates. I'm going to clean that up a little bit better. That's all we're just going to paint that nice. Well, I spent a half a day working on this. Scraped a lot of glue off. Then I used a gas rag soaked with gas, sock of gas. Kept rubbing it and working it, scraping it. Here's a little emery cloth coming out pretty nice. Oh my gosh. Then I get all done. Look at these wires. I'm going to retape them. See, from the factory, I hate calling it a factory though. See, they just put this type of tape on there. I'm going to tape them up nice. I'm going to take this one here and put it behind the first bracket of the fuse box. I'm going to take the other one, put that behind the other one, so they're all the way real nice. I've seen this before on I believe it was on the Hawk. These vents. See how that? The bad part of these is they use some type of a real thin rubber, so when the door opens and closes, it seals in there. And then, but after many years, it deteriorates. I've seen this on other vehicles too. It really bonds to that cardboard. If you pick it off, it'll rip the cardboard. So I suggest, I'm going to clean this one up a little bit. I'm going to carefully go on my little grinder and just smooth it up. You see where it had staples in it here? It must be that kind of held the rubber, see what I mean? And then there's staples on the other side to help flip-flop. They're getting down on George's car. I've seen it on here. They're pretty rough shape. I have them. I'm not putting them on. They're restoring them. And they have a mesh that goes over here, and a screw here, and a screw down in the corner that holds the mesh on, then a carpet kick plate. I don't like them. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to go with this here. I'm going to paint this nice black. There's a piece that's going back on here, a metal piece that I remember I acid cleaned it. Put that back on, and I'm going to leave it. Now the mesh would have been nice. I suppose if your vent's open, if a bee could come through there, it would get raise havoc inside your vehicle compartment. But so I'm not going to put the mesh on now. I am going to clean this door up a little nicer because this one came off relatively easy. The other one didn't. I think it's because the grommets getting wore here. I'll show you when we get all done. I'll show you one more shot, and that'll be it for this part of it. Here's my side kick plate area. I think everyone will agree it looks pretty decent. I'd rather have it painted like that and the fiberglass than carpeted anyhow. Getting ready to glue on these side panels. I took a magic marker and scribed it just when I spray the glue on. And keep it within the area I want to stick. The only problem I have a little bit is trying to keep this carpet back till I glue it. I know, we're going to keep springing back at me. We'll use Grandpa Ira Harder's cow tail weight. There she is. That'll hold her. It's got a lot of poop on it. All right. Glue both contact cement, we'll call the glue. Spray it on both surfaces and really let it set. One more little mystery why we're at it here is I never could figure out. I first got the vehicle. See, it's How about the water regulator? Just turn it off and on. And over here. See this here? I never understand it. When I replaced the hoses new and I got the car, there's no way that it will go up and straight out. I mean, it just, so I thought something was missing. So on George's car, studied up on it. Let's see if I can show this to you. Took this off of George's car. See how it screws to the top of the bottom side of the glove compartment. So if you make it up, you see how mine is angled down? His, see, is angled and goes pretty much straight back and up a little bit. Okay, I can't point it out because I've run out of hands here. George's, mine. Now his makes sense. So it's angled. So I took it off George's car, studying up on it. I know mine is missing a spring. There's no way that this can turn. I see how it was, when it was produced, it's like it has little tabs that go through and hold it in place. Now you think it's a freak thing that the one I got, they got the tabs out of alignment? But I'm not going to tear this all apart or tear the other one apart. I'm not sure you can see in there or not. Right here at the end of the magic marker is a tab. Okay, I just had to share that with you. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I don't really want to change mine and how I'm going to deal with that issue. So the water can flow because it's kinked before it goes out the firewall. I was also curious what this inspection cover was about. Didn't want to get into it, but this screw's already loose. I kind of figured it was probably for a body mount or something. So it's cool. It's like a little, hey, we stashed stuff in there. Anyhow, let's see. This is cool because, you know, when I first started cleaning the vehicle up, I took the air hose, I was blowing out every orifice I could find under the vehicle, and a bunch of this stuff come out. And gee, it looks like maybe some animal died in somewhere. There's some hair in here. But you know what? It's the fibers from the build, fiberglass. But there's a whole bunch of it in here. See that? Look at all that. Yeah, a little bit of interest. I'll clean that hole out. Boy, I tell you, it's just like the Corvette. If anybody's taking a body off one of these frames, good luck. I wonder how they can't get in there with a torch and warm the nut up like that without burning everything up. Another little Avanti mystery. This clip here is over here, and it wasn't really doing anything, really. It wasn't really holding anything, and it's the type of clip that you make it out. You have to actually have a drilled hole that sticks through. And this had a, see, it's got a little hold down fastener right there. So we now looked at George's car, and yep, his has a hole drilled here. The clip goes through the hole, and that's where it holds the harness. And the harness comes up through this area. But his did not have any kind of hole or anchor here. So I wonder, the first part of the year that they started doing it like this, and then why was this clip stuck on there? I did paint it. Good thing I was going to use it. It's not doing anything. I'm just leaving it on there because that's where it was with the car. And I thought about drilling a hole and doing that. Yeah, well, just leave it the way it kind of was. So what was that about? Did they start to do it one like that and then decide to do this? And then the guy said, there you go. Goober and Gomer. Or Goober and Gomer. I ain't about drilling a hole in there. Let it go. Remember that wheel cover on George's Avanti? That's getting crazy. So it was in bad shape. I did use the carpet. I still use it for laying on. Look for things under the vehicle to identify. I'm going to save the hardware off of this, so we're just going to clip this off. Still serves a purpose, the old girl. But if anybody should ever rebuild it, this little piece of here definitely worth saving. Look at all that just crumbles off of there. Yeah, they can still rebuild it. There's a piece of hardware. There goes our fire smoke detector. Very sensitive. Plus the kid's cooking something. I used to paint apartments down in Honeoye, New York. There used to be a young kid there that a little bit of a roustabout, but he was a good kid, I felt. And one day he showed me his bicycle. And he said, "You just painted it." I go, "Man, that paint job came out pretty good. How'd you get it look so good?" And he goes, "Well, I totally dismantled it, and he started a fire down by the creek," he said, and burned all the paint off good. Then it cooled down, he sanded it, and got a can of spray paint. Did a pretty nice good job restoring it. So you can't acid dip them or sandblast them. Sometimes you get them too hot or will warp. Too bad, unfortunately, I don't know why they call him Scooby. We all know who Scooby-Doo is. But I did hear years later he took his own life at age 21. It's kind of sad. Remember, it's a Scooby? We're gonna strip this the Scooby away. Then we'll clean it up and we'll put it in storage in George's Avanti. Let's see if we can burn all that rust off of there. Get it nice and hot way in there where the coals is. Well, the carpet was coming off the panel, so I took it off and glued her back on. Wanted to see how it looked under there. I see on the panel here it did have like a cutout area here for in the future if you do need to adjust the automatic transmission with this inspection cover if needed. And I was kind of wanting to see what would be involved. Would like put one of those pricey replacement radios. So it looks like it's doable. I could crawl up under there. And of course, I love this here, how well, it disintegrates. This will be the flexible hose for the heater to the defroster for the windshield. So I just traced it back a ways and just cut it up there. See way up in there? I just cut it. There it is, yeah. So if I do the radio at another date, then maybe we'll get into that. But for now, I just looking things over, clean it up in there. It did have like this insulation that was in there underneath these cables. And I do want to, I'm going to oil all those cables up while they're exposed. I'm surprised they work as well as they do. Well, here we are. I'm still following up on Goober and Gomer's screw-ups. This is never ending. Oh, boy. Right here, there's like, I found 4 of these little machine nuts were laying down here when I took the cover off. I wonder where they go to. And what Goober and Gomer did, they must have did some work on the wipers. Put some kind of JB weld around these 4 bolts, machine bolts that held the wiper motor. I don't know whether they just liquid welded some nuts in there or what, but it's still flopping around a little bit. So I put the nuts on, tighten them, and then I see where they didn't have these hold downs, we'll call them. One for a vacuum line and the other one for the oil pressure line. They weren't even attached to anything. So I got them secured. The freaking dopes. You know, if you turn the wipers were running enough and it keeps hitting this freaking oil line, eventually it's gonna make it, what a mess that'd be. Oil spurting all over the place. So anyhow, so I think I got that secured, but it's like Goober and Gomer. Come on, Gomer! So anyhow, so I think I got that together. I did, spring was gone off of here. So I used the one off of Howard's car. Sorry, Howard, I had to use your spring. And I'm going to keep this here. I remember discussing earlier, I'm going to put an elbow on. Whatever that was about, I'm just going to put an elbow in there when I start getting the radio hooked up. So there's another Goober Gomer screw up. I think I'm ready to close it up now. Let's see how Scooby's Avanti wheel cover hardware is doing. I'll let that cool down. Another little trick I learned in Vietnam. There you go. Always get the pressure out of it. Never throw it in the fire like that. Yet another goober gomer mess I'm trying to unravel is this ignition. What a mess. I gotta take all this tape off, see what the hell they did under here. Because this is gross. This is way too heavy a gauge wire that they used to run to the starter solenoid. I'm not going to bore you too much with this, but show you some of what you get involved with and taking on different vehicles and prior mechanics that have worked on them and their degree of mechanical abilities. We're having a musician's remembrance anniversary get-together for Canoe Jim, a musician himself today. I'm going to do a little musical time out from the Avanti, and we'll pay a little respect. Here's a photo, an article about Canoe Jim. He's the one on the right with the hat. During the making of a documentary, I think it's called The Botany of Desire. That's how you pronounce it. Canoe Jim told me when they were filming, he kept telling the cameraman, "You better not lean any farther over, buddy, or that thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment's going to the bottom of Canadice Lake. And some places are 90 feet, and you'll never see it again." He wasn't very knowledgeable in the activities of operating a canoe. But luckily they got through the filming. If it could talk, and if it could feel, surely would say, you don't want the pain, or be in the link that breaks the chain. Be in the link that breaks the chain. Well, that's alright now, Mama. That's alright for you. That's alright now, Mama. Just in the way you feel. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright now, Mama. Any way you feel. Well, Mama, she done told me. Papa done told me too. Boy, that girl, you're foolish. She ain't good for you. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright now, Mama. Any way you feel. We're all here for Jim Miller's remembrance session. Come on, big boy, smile. It was on a moonlight night, stars shining bright, whisper from high, love's passing by. Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining, shine on for the one that's made me blue. I lost that old mare somewhere along the road. It's okay, I know some people that still have theirs, and I never have forgot. You want to stop to the house, and I never have forgot. The promise I made to that mare. Never let go, every day a lesson. Never let go, it's a curse and a blessing. Living is fast, dying is slow. Throw your arms around me and never let go.
Oh, isn't that good?
Yo!
That's
Anyway.
great. She should drink drink more.
Yeah, she's too, yeah,
I know.
too self-aware,
Yeah.
too self-conscious or something.
She's so good